Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, I want to talk, of course, about United versus Sunderland. Looking at it again the next day, my feelings on this game, what are the thoughts on this game, where are we at? Today, I feel the same as yesterday, which is that I thought it was actually quite a nice, calm, composed, and fairly routine win, which is, at the end of the day, what United really needed, given the situation that we're in and given how things have gone. Does it change everything? No. Does it immediately restore all faith in the project and Amram and in the direction we're heading? No. But what it does for me personally is tell me and confirm for me some of the things that I feel I already know, which is that a big part of United's performance, a big part of United's inconsistencies, a big part of United's inability to string things together forward next game, truly does very often come down to personnel and inconsistencies in that regard. I asked for, I think, 5 things ahead of the game, personnel-wise. I said 3 of them have to be done. They're gimmies, they're free hits, they're things you have to do because we cannot survive without them. And they're extremely obvious. The first one was putting Ahmad at wingback, or rather playing wingers at a wingback position. It doesn't have to be on both sides, but you need to have at least one winger at wingback. That gives you, in essence, from a personnel perspective, if you look at it, one winger, one fullback, 3 defenders. It's really no different personnel-wise to a back 4. You get 4 defenders on the pitch, 1 central defensive midfielder, 1 box-to-box 8, and a bunch of forwards. So in that respect, it has to. That is the difference between being very negative and being a more positive attacking team, if you think about it. People used to complain when we would play a back 4 and play 2 defensive midfielders in that too because it was too many defenders. And that was correct. I complained about that myself. You were putting 6 defenders on the pitch. We can't do that. When you put 6 defenders on the pitch, you put yourself in a position where you're constantly under attack, where you're having to take too much pressure and you can't bring it to the opposition. In my tactical video against Brentford, I showed the flaws in the back line, how it dropped so deep that it ended up nullifying any advantage you could have, that it wasn't shifting on its axis, that it wasn't rotating back and forth to defend with the correct number of players, but constantly defending with too many players against too few attackers. A lot of that was personnel. Ahmad playing was a huge difference maker. Go over him in a minute here. The second one was Lammens, putting the keeper in. Now, Lammens came in and did nothing special, which is exactly what you want from your keeper. You don't want to hear about him. They don't need to be the headline maker. Now, in essence, he was the headline maker simply because he was so good after having had such bad keeping that, of course, it stood out, and that's okay. But he didn't have an enormous amount to do. A basic amount of work when we look at the numbers. 3 saves, 2 high claims, 2 saves inside the box. That's all we needed from him. Not a lot. That's all you need from your keeper. That's all you should want from your keeper. Not a lot. Which, of course, means the defense did well to keep the ball away from him as much as possible, too. But he did what was expected. And in my tactical breakdown that I looked at, because I started making the pictures and things before I record the video, I also noted that he did some things that were quite good. I'm not saying they're things keepers shouldn't do, but they're things we have not seen in a long time. I mean, even De Gea didn't particularly do them. Showing for the ball really, really well, calling for it under pressure, and being able to relieve that pressure with an actually good pass instead of just a mindless thunk up the pitch to nobody. Big difference in the momentum in our play. So that was number 2. And you saw how big it was in affecting the way that we played. It was massive. It was massive. You add up Ahmad and Senna Lammens makes a big difference. The third thing was Lenny Oro. His aggression, his pace in the back line. It's got to be there. It's got to be there as the perfect foil to Matthijs de Ligt stepping up, stepping forward, doing all that. You've got to have that balance in there no matter what. Now, in addition, I also said, of course, that I have concerns about Bruno Deep. I have concerns about Luke Shaw and Dalot, and that all happened. I think some of those concerns were certainly justified. Diogo Dalot put in a really bad performance in what was otherwise a good game. Could have cost United on a few occasions, and certainly I think if it was somebody else, it would have been a lot better, and the performance would have even improved a lot. So I'm not convinced. I'm not faith restored. I'm 100% a believer that everything's going to turn around. Yet, I need to see this happen multiple times. I need to make sure we don't revert to defensive formations when under any sort of pressure. I need to see that we can sustain smart decisions. I think Lammens will keep his spot, but I need to see that Ahmad out wide or a winger out wide pretty much no matter what, and some of the other changes that we saw there. Some of the things that people saw, like the shape out of possession, 4-4-2, things like that. A lot of this is going to be over the next 2 weeks. It's going to be dominated by the same people I usually talk about, claiming that Ruben Amorim is stupid because he made a change for this game that everyone was clamoring for and that we don't believe he'll go back on it. And I'm going to say it for the 633rd time. The personnel that you choose have a huge influence on the shape. I'll give you the example of Diogo Dalot. There was about 6 instances during that game where Mason Mount is screaming at him for not stepping up quick enough, for dropping too deep too quickly and not pressing the ball. I managed to catch a couple images of it even for the tactical video later. When you play Diogo Dalot on that side, not only does he not have the mind that Ahmad has to attack quickly and get forward, but I showed in some of the other breakdowns, even when it's Mazraoui, just too slow. The instincts, the natural way of playing, the natural progression, the way that they learn the game, the way that they've played the game for such a long time, and just physically the lack of acceleration and quick pace that you'll get from Ahmad that doesn't exist there for Mazraoui and Dalot means they're always going to be deeper. It's just going to happen. They're always going to get deeper. They're always going to get pinned deeper. They're always going to get stuck deeper, and you're going to see that change in shape. The other big difference maker is Mason Mount. This was something that was maybe criticized in the build-up about dropping Cunha as if it's like a terrible thing to have to rotate, to have enough forwards you can actually rotate for once and take someone who's, maybe hasn't got off the ground fully to get him out of the spotlight for a minute and succeed. But it was, in the end, a brilliant change. Mason Mount, of course, gets the opener, which is effectively the winning goal. But not only that, Mason Mount was a fantastic performer. And what you get from Mason Mount that we haven't seen as much yet from Cunha, and part of that is because he played as a 9 in a lot of games, is his ability to drop in and support the midfield. In fact, he drops so deep into the midfield and times his pressing. This is in essence the biggest difference. Mason Mount and Amad Diallo are two of the most intelligent pressers in football and in the team by far. They're so good with their pressing. What does that mean? It means that out of possession, they don't have to always start really high to try and get a head start on the press. They can start from deeper positions, from positions where they can form a more compact line and accelerate and pick their times to press quickly to come out of that shape. And that way they can be very compact until it's time to press, and they can press really strongly at the right times and do so. It is a personnel issue. And United will slide out of that 4-4-2 shape, that sometimes 3-5-2 shape that is a little bit more compact, so long as they cannot pick those personnel. Now, I think Cunha can do the job that Mount can do to a degree, but nobody can do the job Ahmad does out there. And that is a little bit of a concern personnel-wise that we're going to have to deal with. So that's just my thoughts on the matter. it's, again, really comes down to personnel, picking the right personnel. And when the personnel are available, Ruben Amorim has to get that right on a continuous basis in order to pick things up. So let's look at the game itself, and let's look at some of the matches, some of the stuff that went on here. United had a very good spell before the 2 goals, really dominant before that second goal. I mean, absolutely battering them. One of the other things that I said during the match, people are 100% going to revise this after the fact. And you know who type of people will do this, are going to revise this after the fact to try and paint it as if we were just taking speculative long shots and such. They could not be more wrong. There was like 3 long shots from Ahmad, Mbumo, and Bruno, and they were actually really good shots that worked the keeper. Bruno's nearly went in the net and led to an even bigger chance for Ahmad to put it across goal to Mason Mount that they just couldn't connect on. That was literally a free open goal that we didn't convert. So on the surface, I'll tell you that the story of this game for me, because after the second goal, it went very neutral. United, obviously, not impressive in the second half, not amazing in the second half, a very neutral kind of setup there. I mean, statistically, if you look at it by the first half, created more. The possession was fairly even, created more, produced more, had more, did more, obviously, did quite a lot. In the second half, it wasn't like it was bad. They still created more than Sunderland, still held the ball about the same 50-50, and still really just kept the ball out of the danger zones. Now, that makes for a pretty routine win. But the one thing I've got to say, and again, it's a story of our season so far in my eyes, is when I went through the game and looked at pictures, I think there was 6 times in the second half where, again, we had those opportunities, those situations that we could not even convert to shots and chances. Now, that happens. It happens. It certainly does. There's no doubt about that. But the second half gameplay of staying compact, staying tight, not giving Sunderland much, knowing that you're up 2 goals and that they're going to have to come out and that's going to give you those opportunities, the game looks a lot different if we take them. And that's what needs to happen still to turn games like this from 2-0 into 4-0. There was nothing wrong with the game plan of being tight and compact when you're up 2-0 at home. But what United still failed to do that they need to still get better at, and I think, honestly, it's just time together on the pitch because it's good players. It's good players getting into these situations. I think it's just time together on the pitch with this whole new front line and new players and all of that, is just take those opportunities and convert them into chances. Because in the second half, Sunderland coming out, United had a lot of opportunities to do something better. Outnumbered plays, runs, where Sunderland were caught out and they just were not able to do much with it. So I think the game plan was fine. I think that the second half would have looked obviously a lot better if we'd taken just one of those and gotten a third goal, which I wish we had because I would certainly have liked a 3 or 4-0. But at the end of the day, 15 shots to 8, more than double the XG once again. Personnel-wise, Benjamin Sesko certainly has arrived 2 games in a row, 2 goals in a row. And this is one of the things I want to talk about. One of the things that I think Amorim again does deserve credit for, that will oftentimes not be given as credit, is for these 2 players right here, Benjamin Sesko and Lammens. Now, a lot has been made of, in the beginning of the season, Benjamin Sesko not getting starts, not getting going, just getting a little bit of minutes here and there and all that. But you have to look at it and say, well, he's coming into form, isn't he? As a young player transitioning to the league, that was a great game from him. He did so much well, got his goal, his build-up, his play, his link-up, his duels, his ability to help us retain possession was tops. Maybe he was managed correctly by easing him in, and now he's finding his form at the right time when we need him as well. Maybe if you just throw him in right off the bat, that doesn't happen. What we know is that he's performing well. And so you have to say that we must have managed him properly. And the same for me goes for Lammens. I wish we'd seen him a lot earlier. I feel like we could have seen him a lot earlier. And certainly, if we got the performance we got yesterday out of him in earlier games, I think we'd have more points on this season. Arsenal, even Fulham, just the consistency, the confidence he provides could have changed quite a lot. But what I've got to add to that and say is, because somebody mentioned this in the post-match thing, they said it just makes me mad that Amram didn't use him earlier. But I think you can really, again, once again, go both ways on that kind of statement. It's very easy to assume such. But what happened in the real world? He came in and had a great performance. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he wasn't selected because until this point in time, Ruben Amram, as a young player for him coming in, again, Cunha and Bumo, they're from the Premier League. They're older, they're established, they're experienced players. Lammens and Sesko, younger. And they kind of came in at the same time if you look at it. Sesko was signed a bit earlier. Lammens on the final day. And if you look at it, they're kind of got their starts and their runs at around the same time from when they joined the club. And it seems to be working with both. So maybe looking at it the other way, you do have to credit that the fact that he could have easily come in and been terrible and then confidence destroyed and all of that. And we're saying, crap, we got another bad keeper. We've seen that with new signings before getting chucked in. So I think that's actually an area we have to look at and for the moment assume that Ruben Amram has done the correct thing with both players, both young players coming from different leagues to give them time to settle and get them going at the right time. I think that's a positive look on it, but I also think that, we don't know what goes on in training and behind the scenes and all of that. And what we've just seen is a good performance on a debut from a goalkeeper in the Premier League. So we have to assume he's managed correctly. He's managed this correctly, and I think that's important as well. And we certainly needed it because adding Sesko and Lammens at the right time is huge. Ahmad out wide was a complete game changer. One thing incredibly impressive, he completed every single pass yesterday. 3 key passes, chances created, his pressing, his control, his build-up, his defensive work. Tops. Love it. Absolutely love it from Ahmad. Huge difference maker. That's the Ahmad we saw last season. He was flying. Mbumo, good first half. Second half, a little sloppy. He's one of those where I think he definitely will be better. And those situations turning into chances, they're still falling to him where he could do better on a certain occasions. But 3 really good crosses, 1 really good shot against the keeper, 1 assist for the first goal to Mason Mount, which was a beautiful passage of play. Mason Mount was awesome. Really, really good. Just everything he did was so crisp, tight, excellent work there. Getting that first goal as well. De Ligt, his same usual consistent self. Lenny Oro as well, aggressive, in control, good defensively, good on the ball, good working things around. Both were great. Casemiro was very good in that first half. I kind of had noted a couple weeks ago in one of the views that I looked at that Casemiro still is I say unfortunately very important because we don't have anybody better, and that's why it's unfortunate because his legs have gone. But I did note during the game on a number of occasions where, for example, Bruno would pass off his runner. Maybe he should have, maybe he shouldn't have, maybe he was just not paying attention, maybe he didn't. But Casemiro, as I mentioned in that video, I noted that since he sits more, he's got much better instincts for danger than any of our other players in the midfield. Ugarte doesn't do what he does. He's a different type of player, and Mainu can't do what he does either, I'm sorry to say, because the instincts are just different. He smells the danger, he sees it, and there were so many times where he would just shut something down by just being where he should be or being in the right place at the right time. That looks routine that you don't notice. If his legs were still there, he'd be exceptional, but we need a better number 6 in January. We have to, because what he provides is excellent, but he just doesn't have the legs to do it at the volume that we need as well, and nobody else can offer what he offers. Unfortunately, it's the case, and I was surprised when I came to that conclusion with my analysis the other week, but it's proven true. We're a better team when he plays, defensively for sure. Bruno, one of the best things I can say about his game is that I didn't really notice him. And that's kind of the midfield when it's working right in this system. You don't need to notice them that much. They pass the ball well. They keep it ticking. They move it well. No huge gaping blunders. Compact defensively. Some good switches of play out to Ahmad on that side. That in to out type of thing that we've seen so many times is the way to go. Good game from him. Solid and consistent. I don't want to... These two, same as ever. It was a really, really, really crappy game from Diogo Dalot. Shaw was better for a bit, but there's a few moments late on that were really ropey. And the thing is, it's just I'm not being fooled by Luke Shaw. It's an every other game thing at this point in time. He's got to do better consistently, and I'm yet to see that. So I still have my same concerns about these two as before. If anything, even more so about Diogo Dalot at this point in time. So just a solid performance from a lot of the players. Obviously, this brings at the moment United up into ninth. There's obviously a number of games ongoing, so could drop a little bit lower. But all things considered, 1 point behind Chelsea and everything after everything that's happened is not too bad going into Anfield next week. Now, the other thing that I want to discuss and just briefly touch on here, because I was looking at it again, and it's been 7 games now, 7 weeks, and the reality is, are United any good or not? And it's still hard to tell. Now, United have, in fact, of course, won 3 of the last 5 games. Yeah, we haven't put them back to back. It's been every other. But we have won 3 of the last 5 games in the Premier League, including in their win against Chelsea. We haven't missed a penalty for a draw against Brentford during that period as well. But when you look at the numbers on it, yet again, you go 7 weeks, 7 games. All right, well, 3, it was too soon. 4, it's too soon. 5, it's too soon. 6, it's too soon. 7, is too soon. Well, it's really not, because it just keeps happening. It just keeps going on and on and on and on that United continue to be tops. And yes, it's only 7 games, but that's 7 games. At least that's 7 games that you are. It's enough to say that there's something in this, that United are still top of the expected goals table, top of the shots on target, third in touches in the opposition box, and at big chances as well. If you take a look at it, United are on 17, only 4 off the league leaders, and right there on the same numbers as, these teams, 2 behind Liverpool, 2 behind Chelsea, 2 behind City, 2 behind Arsenal. These are all top of the top 6 sides. So at the present moment, so United are good at creating chances. And there's been a lot of crappy narratives that go around this week that really, 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 really do bother me. Some of them that are just complete crap. And like I was saying about these long shots and how things are going to be revised to that. They will be. Don't you have your doubts on it? They will be. And they're not true. If we take a look here at this, for example, obviously United's still atop of this. There's a few games to play. Obviously, Crystal Palace could end up higher, though they haven't created much so far as I'm watching. But City, etc. Right? They may not be tops by the end of the weekend, but certainly they're going to be very good. Now, you've had a lot of narratives, a lot of bullshit out there. One, set pieces and penalties. Well, look at the situation. They have the highest open play expected goals of anybody. Then there was, it's a lot of creation while they're behind chasing the game and teams are settled deep. Well, no, the vast majority, more than half is at 0. The second highest grouping is when they're above, and again, they have the most XG while in drawing or gain or advantageous positions. Yeah, they create chances while losing. Everybody does. What a silly thing to say is not relevant to the game. But again, the 2 biggest times when they create chances are at 1, level game state. That's how it should be. And 2, when they've gotten a 1-goal lead to try to press ahead on the advantage. And then it's chasing the game late. Well, no, it isn't. 16 to 30 minutes, the first half. 46 to 60 minutes, the start of the second half. United have been very good at the start of both halves. Again, if you look at that, the 1 to 15 is 4th here. Yeah, they created chances in the 75th minute onward, but it's still not the biggest time. It's like this stuff just gets ridiculous when you look at it. Then you look at shot zones. We take only long shots. Well, no. Out of the box has only accounted for 1.29 of the expected goals. It's their lowest group here. And it's not the most shots. We have 60 shots in the penalty area. United take the most shots in the penalty area of anybody. And that's where most of our expected goals are coming from. So the reason I mention this stuff is like when you want to look at United now going into this international break and see and take a look after the Sunderland game, the fact of the matter is United are good at attacking. United are good at creating chances. It just cannot be denied no matter how many times someone wants to bullshit it and spread false narratives just to stir things up. And like I said, people are going to do that after this. They're going to reduce it to long shots again. They're going to talk about the second half with ignorance. They're going to talk about the shape change and say, well, Ruben Amorim knows what's working and he's going to screw it up again. It's personnel. United are a good attacking team. What they are a bad team at is defending. And a lot of that comes down to that personnel choice. When it's the wrong people, they get pushed back into deep positions far too quickly, absorb way too much pressure, let teams at them too easily, too fast, too much, and it results in too many chances for the opposition. Having a better goalkeeper is going to change that as well. You can see how it helps those high claims, those dealing with those plays, reduces chances that teams are getting by not having the ball fall in the box and go around. But at the moment, if I look at United, I feel confident in saying United are a good attacking team. They go for it. They create chances. They create good chances. They should be scoring enough goals. They just have to sort it out defensively. And sometimes you have to sort it out defensively by being more aggressive offensively, which is the funny part. United are a better defensive team when Ahmad plays out wide as an attacker because it takes the pressure off the defense, right? The best form of defense can be attack. Between that and a keeper and the right personnel, I think they'll get it right. But that's what I need to see after the break. Obviously, it's a huge game at Anfield. I mean, a win would be insane, but nobody's done it in 10 years at United. I would take a hard-fought draw, but a win would be incredible. Regardless, what I need to see after the break from Ruben Amorim and this team is those selections continuing to be correct, because then we will still see that better shape. We will still see better performances, and I think we will see us turn things around. So that's where we're at. That's how we feel. It's been chaotic. It's been crazy. Obviously, it's very likely Ruben Amorim remains in, and we can relook at things again in the next international break. But Ahmad back to his best. Keep him in that position. Lammens getting going. A lot of good things to take away from yesterday's game that should hopefully carry forward into the future and into the next games. And that's what we all need to see to restore some faith in this team. It's not going to be one game, but we need to start stringing them together and seeing it back to back again and again to see that. But more and more, every time we have a good win, I'm convinced it's just personnel. Pick the right players, put the right guys on the pitch, and we'll win. Okay? Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. And, of course, if you haven't noticed, the new Muppeteers merchandise is here. Got my sweater on now. There's a whole bunch of stuff on here, from embroidered patterns to printed patterns, things like that. All sorts of things that you can get, down to dolls and hand crocheted things and all that people have been liking as well. So make sure, if you're interested, get your Muppeteers merchandise over this international break. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.